Hello, welcome to PODnas. This is a sports show with a Southern flair. I'm Daniel Hawks. That's Jarrett Roser. Got the point right. We are doing good today. It is a Monday when we're recording. We're going to recap the LSU Ole Miss game, the thriller OT game, go over all the other Louisiana schools that played this weekend. And I guess we have to talk about the Saints game, but we'll get there. Going to end up with the plays of the week. I'm having a struggle bus day, Jarrett. How are you? What's going on?
Well, I'm doing well. They always say Superman does good, you're doing well, is how they taught us as kids. I think it's also just a lot of fun that you are struggling as much as you are right now because you don't realize this, but because of this weekend's win, there's been a nice boost of LSU subscribers to the channel, and so this might be
Hey.
this might end up our most watched episode of football season, and you're just gonna choke your way through it, aren't you?
I can perform. All right. I'm a primetime performer. You put me in front of the bright lights. I'll make them light up. Oh,
Off to a
just
great start.
a little context, guys. The Bears play in Chicago, but they were in London. And so we had to be up and at 'em for an 8:30 game yesterday. And also it was the Chicago Marathon yesterday. So it was just a busy day in Chicago. Everyone was out. The bar that I work at was slammed. It was good times, but it was just a long day. So let's get into the good stuff because that wasn't a lot for me yesterday, but Saturday was just balling. Everyone in Louisiana was balling out. LSU comes back late to beat Ole Miss. Garrett Nussmeier throws a TD to Kyron Lacey, who almost chunks the ball into the stands and then just decides to hit him with the pose as LSU wins the game. It was a great game. It was fun to watch. I love the grit that this LSU team showed coming back, forcing overtime and then going in and winning in overtime. What were your takeaways? I know you were just at the BK presser too. So what are your thoughts? What did he have to say? What's going on? Jarrett, you take the reins.
You just want me to run through LSU
Yeah.
football basically from the
Yeah.
start of the season to now is what it sounds like. I
Yeah,
mean,
please.
huge game. And afterward, Brian Kelly talked a lot about a growth game for Garrett Nussmeier. And I think you look at the game Saturday as really a growth game for this team as a whole. The defense kind of led the way for a lot of this game
Yeah.
because Garrett told us afterwards, probably one of the worst games that he's played. And I think from his perspective in a while, not just in an LSU uniform. And he had some throws during the course of that game where it's a little bit head scratching and you're wondering what's going on, why they can't get anything going. They had one touchdown drive for 57 minutes of that game or whatever it was. But when they needed some plays late, they go on the final drive and he converts 2 fourth downs and another third down with some really big plays. The throw to Aaron Anderson for the touchdown that ends up sending the game into overtime was remarkable. If you look at the still shot of his release, he anticipated the hell out of that and threw Aaron Anderson open in a way that very few quarterbacks, particularly at this level, are going to do. And so a lot of what you saw from him and from the team to step up against their toughest opponent thus far this season and to come away with a win was really impressive. Super encouraging to see the defense play the way it did against those guys, just knowing what's ahead in terms of the SEC schedule ahead. But I think you have to be as confident in, if not more confident in right now, this LSU football team and what their ceiling is for this season than would have been the case at any other point over the last month and a half.
And LSU is the highest jumper this week in terms of rankings, in terms of the standings. They jump up 5 spots. They're now number 8, firmly in the playoff discussion. If they were on the outskirts before, they're definitely in the mix now. Alabama's looming coming up, but I think that'll be the next really big test. I would love to see the rushing. Still cannot feel like we can't get multiple games in a row of a good rushing attack. Ole Miss defense was very stifling on the run. I mean, no one could get really felt like a yard was hard to come by on the ground.
Yeah,
So that
it's
go ahead.
funny because so last year's a shootout, and you're wondering why the heck can LSU get a stop? And that's the talk really for an entire calendar year going into this game was just the frustration at that point, and then at some point it turned into the anxiety and concern of, is it going to end up like that again? Is this going to be another shootout? And then suddenly this week, the defense is phenomenal. The offense is having trouble. You're having trouble run. So everyone is kind of anxious about, why can't they run the ball still? But as much as LSU's defense is much improved, Ole Miss's defense was a real focal point for them this offseason in the transfer portal. They're a much improved defense, and that's a defense that Brian Kelly said is probably the best they've played thus far this season. All that said, it's obviously been an issue all season long of not having the run game where they would like it to be, other than the one game where Caden Durham was explosive as all get out. And so seeing how they continue to try and find that balance will be interesting. But this Ole Miss team could very well prove to be one of the top 2, 3, 4 defenses you see all season long for LSU. And I don't think you're going to see them struggle quite the same way against a lot of these teams ahead. And as much as we're kind of looking at that Alabama game, I hope the LSU players, and I feel like the LSU players, realize how much of a prime position for a letdown a trip to Arkansas can be. It's historically been an issue at times for this program, and so they've got to go to Arkansas, to A&M before a bye in Alabama. But I think where they are mentally, what they saw from themselves, and what they know needs to be done, not just in a big picture standpoint, but each and every week moving forward, I feel really good about where this team is right now.
Absolutely. 1000% agree. I was going to say, let's not overlook the 2 tough road games that they have coming up, even though I just did that 5 minutes ago. So, but A&M is going to be a tough game. Arkansas is going to be a tough game. It's the SEC. So, hopefully, like you said, the players are not where the fans' heads are at, because I know, just like I was 5 minutes ago, already looking towards Alabama, especially with how Alabama played against South Carolina, and them looking a little bit vulnerable, or at least the most vulnerable that they have in probably 2 decades or so, since that first year Nick Saban, when he was there, when that was the last time that Alabama team lost to 2 unranked teams, or lost 2 games in a row. And with that happening, I just really hope that a week at a time, like I'm trying to get by minute, a week at a time.
And you kind of illustrate the whole deal. I mean, look, the players and the coaches, they train themselves to limit out distractions, the old block out the noise moniker, or mantra rather, that we talked about so much under Coach O, but to focus on the task at hand, the play at hand. And that's something that has been such a theme for Brian Kelly this season, of trying to get the players to recognize, don't think about the magnitude of this game. Don't think about what we need to accomplish this quarter. Just think about, here's the play, and limit that out. And that's something he's been really proud of, the way that they've gotten to where they were on Saturday against Ole Miss. And so they're doing a really strong job at that. At the same time, they're 18, 19, 20, 22-year-old guys with a lot of attention coming their ways. And your old ass just showed, better than to jump ahead, but you couldn't help yourself. But it just takes a second of lapse, and suddenly you're distracted and thinking too far ahead. And so when you got a bunch of young guys and everything else going on in their lives, it can happen in a hurry. But they have done a really good job of improving just their focus throughout this season.
Absolutely. And you know what? It wasn't the only big win on Saturday in the boot. Every single Louisiana college team that played in the FBS came away with a W. I was not able to catch some of these games. I was working a bit. So Jared, give me the update. UL won, Southeastern won, ULM went up there, or ULM played at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They walk away with a victory. Southern won as well. So yeah. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Look at me. I knew more than I said. So.
Yeah. So you said all the FBS teams win. The Cajuns handle App State. They win that game by 10 points. Ben Wooldridge had a nice game, ends up with a really high quarterback rating on a national scale relevant type quarterback rating. When looking at the PFF scores from the weekend, he completed 14 of 23 for 198, 2 touchdowns and an interception, rushed for another score. Terrence Carter had over 100 yards and a touchdown receiving. Tyrese Skipper, Tyrone Lewis, each with interceptions. Just a big win for them to maintain their positioning among the top of the Sun Belt teams against an App State team that historically has been problematic for them at times. And we talked about Friday, not the best App State team or biggest challenge in this series that we've seen, but still a big win for the Cajuns. ULM also staying up atop the Sun Belt Conference right now. They trailed 3-0 early to Southern Miss, scored, and just never really looked back. Went off to a 38-21 win. Ahmad Hardy with 121 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. La Tech got a big win for those guys. Evan Bullock with 18 for 25 passing for 290 yards and 5 touchdowns, including 127 and a 75-yard touchdown to True Edwards. And so a lot to like. All the FBS teams that were in action. Southeastern won. Southern won in overtime. They had to come back from a 14-0 deficit. It's the first time, unless something's mislabeled by the schools. I went back through it like 3 a.m. Saturday night. The first time that Southern and LSU have both been in an overtime game on the same day, and they both end up winning. So
Wow.
really cool little there in Baton Rouge on Saturday. And all of that positivity is kind of just going to transition us into coming out of that Saturday is how I knew the Saints were not going to do well on Sunday, because it was too much good stuff happening on a Saturday in college football in Louisiana, and we can't have that nice of things for a complete
No,
weekend.
no. So I guess should we talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't have a whole lot else to say about any of the other college games. Noah Bodden had a nice night for Southern, leading that comeback. He hits Quay Davis for the late touchdown. They're kind of the Garrett Nussmeier to Aaron Anderson deal to tie things up late, and then Josh Griffin with the game-winning overtime field goal. So we might as well just pull the Band-Aid off and jump right into the shit show of Sunday.
One last thing I will say, as we just talked about jumping ahead, that ULM game is going to be so much fun now, and it has so many implications on it, looking like it should, if they keep kind of rolling the way both those teams are rolling. That's going to be a super fun game to close out the season.
I have always been, since I've been doing Louisiana versus all y'all stuff, always been kind of monitoring, okay, is there going to be a point where a ULM versus Cajuns game on Thanksgiving weekend warrants me maybe going there instead of to an LSU and Texas A&M?
Yeah.
And that has never come close to being the case. But if these two teams keep playing the way that they're playing right now, it gets real interesting by late November for sure.
Absolutely. So again, let's jump ahead, or I guess behind. The Saints had a really good second quarter. That's really all I need to talk about. We just talk about the second quarter. They put up 27 points. The rest of the game, though, where do the Saints go from here? Because in my head, it's like a very real, like, do they just go right into a rebuild? I know I'm very pessimistic as a fan, but it seems like with the way that the Saints cap is and how this team is not going to even compete for a division title, it feels like it might be time to get some of those pieces out and kind of free up some cap space and let some of these younger players kind of play and grow. Because I love Marshawn Lattimore. I love Cam Jordan. I don't want to see them stuck on a team that I just feel like doesn't have great hope or aspirations moving forward. And like I said, super pessimistic. But
Man, you went from our conversation of talking about let's not jump ahead 3 weeks to now you're like, let's just fast forward this season, jump ahead to next. I'm worried about these guys getting stuck.
Yeah, I mean, but am I wrong? They didn't look good.
So you for sure had a chance to keep a closer eye on the Saints on Sunday than I did. I was wrapped up in trying to still write a lot of content out of the Saturday night game against Ole Miss, and I do remember looking and seeing Tampa is up 17-0 and me thinking, I'm glad I don't have to worry too much about this because it's already out of hand, but maybe I should try and put some money on the Saints with whatever point spread is now live, and didn't get a chance to do that, and suddenly the Saints were back with I think within 17-14 like
Yeah, they
that,
take the lead. Yeah.
and felt like, man, I really wish I had a chance to get that money in on this game, and then get
Hey.
sidetracked again working, and very quickly see, man, I'm really glad I did not put any money on the Saints at any
Yeah.
point, regardless of what kind of points were happening, because it just got so ugly. And so I don't know a lot of the ebbs and flows there. I know, there were some big special teams and defensive plays that kind of sparked a lot of that. I don't have a great feel on Spencer Rattler's performance overall, but I mean, it's the first time throwing that kid out there. Saints still getting
Yeah.
their way back healthy, and so there are some reasons to think that it won't be quite as ugly as it apparently was for 3 out of 4 quarters on Sunday.
No.
They've got to win at home on a short week Thursday. Otherwise, I start to get real worried at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Sean Payton's homecoming on Thursday. I don't think there'll be any, like Sean Payton said, he doesn't think they're going to have flowers and candy for him coming back to the Superdome. Spencer Rattler looked like a rookie. I mean, he had some really good throws. He has an arm, but it was nice to see. One of my biggest issues with Derek Carr is sometimes he like defaults to like not taking a risk. Spencer Rattler had no qualms about taking risks. He
Well,
threw the ball 40 times. So
that's something I for sure going in would have felt like he's probably going to sling that thing a little bit
yeah,
more freely. Although we say this a week after we were lamenting what the hell was that throw at the beginning of the Chiefs game by Derek Carr also. So he's thrown a couple
he's been a
downfield that
lot
we
better
wonder what
this
the
year.
hell's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah, it's been a lot better this year, but I mean, you could tell that that second quarter, like I said, was great. The Saints looked, if they could play all 4 quarters like that, they'd be unstoppable, man. But during that second half, after some adjustments, the Bucks come out and they really kind of put the clamps down. It really just felt like the Saints couldn't do much of anything. And they didn't. They did not score in the second half. They did not score outside of the second quarter. And Chris Godwin is back. He looked phenomenal. It just looked like he was open all the time. And then also the running backs. Sean Tucker has 14 carries. Both Bucky Irving and Sean Tucker had 14 carries. Sean Tucker goes for 136. He averaged 9.7 a carry. Bucky Irving has 81 yards. They both have touchdowns. For something that I feel like the Saints are so good against the run, and that defense is really good. I don't know if it's just like they were kind of gassed about having to be out there so much. It just looked like they couldn't even stop the run. There's a lot of arm tackles. There's a lot of very easy holes for Sean Tucker and Bucky Irving to run through.
You've seen them all now at this point. Does that feel like that's the team to beat in this division at this point for you?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think they're just the most complete team. I think even the Falcons, their offense is getting going, but the defense is very suspect and can get points put on in a second. This Buccaneers team, it just felt like they were clicking on all cylinders outside of that second quarter. And yeah, they felt like they could do whatever they wanted and they could dictate the game however they wanted. So, and they did to the tune of 51 points. So,
And you've always been such a huge fan of Baker Mayfield, going back to his college stops and of course the Hulu commercials that we all love so much.
I have the
Just
progressive commercials, I actually do like
but
the progressive commercials. So I'm not calling Cowherd on Baker Mayfield, but I'm I whatever, man.
I tell
He's
you what,
playing well. He's playing well.
there
Like
that was where I was going to get to is there was certainly a point in the not too distant past that I was not expecting to see Baker Mayfield having 300-yard games for the division favorite Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
yeah. Um it feels like all I this goes to a bigger thing. um, it's so hard to come in as a top draft pick as a quarterback and just get thrown into the fire, especially when you go like Baker. The Browns are not a good situation. I don't think a very competent team, as you can
Well,
see.
that's a hot
Yeah.
take.
They're the first team in 10 years, we're gonna go off on a tangent here, to not score 20 points in any single game that they've played. But Kevin Stefanski, keep putting Deshaun Watson out there. That's working out for everyone. We personally know that Jameis Winston will get in there and at least sling it. You will at least put up points. I think maybe the tide should be turning. I don't care how much money you have invested in the guy. Maybe it's time for Jameis to get on this tune of early draft picks that get a second shot and maybe show what they're worth. The Sam Darnolds, the Baker Mayfields of the world. But yeah, what we were going back to though, I know I sound pessimistic, but I think it's time for a fire sale. I think let the coach go and let's get everyone out of there. All right. Let's get up and try to get Shador Sanders. I don't know. let's get the
Jeez,
let's get the kid from what is it, Genty, the running back. Let's
yeah,
let's get him in there. And let's get Alvin Kamara on a
Mister
contender and let's get some
Mister
new
like
blood in
11
there.
yards a carry or whatever the hell he's averaging.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. He's a monster. It's if you haven't seen from Boise State, the running back, go just watch the highlights. Just type in Genty Boise State, and it's probably will be the best 5 minutes of your day. So
You mentioned Shador, so are we at a point where you're pretty set already? You know, there's a quarterback change at some point that needs to happen. They need to bring someone in that is not currently on that roster for that. Is this a place? Can Garrett Nussmeier follow father dad or Doug Nussmeier's footsteps in the black and
I
gold?
listen. I that would be great. I love anytime like Foster Moreau playing for the Saints, playing in the in the home state where he played college ball. I love that. I think it's just such a good story, especially Foster Moreau's story with him beating cancer and coming back, and it's a crucial catch month for the NFL, and him honestly becoming. I mean, he only had 2 receptions and 2 targets yesterday, but it doesn't matter if it's Derek Carr or Spencer Radler. They're looking for Foster Moreau, especially with Taysom Hill out. So the tight ends were actually the leading wide receivers for the Saints yesterday, Foster Moreau and Juwan Johnson. So hey,
It's
we'll we'll
not really what you're looking for from a downfield passing game, but not
no
surprising for a guy making his first start either to
no
have those
absolutely.
safety blankets.
Absolutely. So we talk about the Broncos coming in this week. And then after that, it's not a bad schedule. I could see the Saints actually picking up some W's. They have to go to LA and play the Chargers, but then they have the Panthers. Falcons game is going to be tough. It always is, but it is the home game. Then we get the porous Browns, as we just talked about, and then the Rams, who are everyone's hurt. So there are definitely some winnable games, followed by the Giants. But my pessimism is at a level where I don't even know if maybe 2 wins out of those next 5. So we'll see.
Yeah. Sunday was ugly, but I'm not going to get quite as pessimistic as you yet. I will potentially be there Thursday if they don't take care of business, but I think there are some opportunities, as you mentioned, in the weeks ahead to kind of shake back and get this to a place that you can feel a little bit less frustrated with. All that
Yeah.
said, some of the progression of some of these other teams around the conference make it look that much more frustrating. You're probably not sneaking in with a wild card spot out of the South this year with how strong the North is right now. And
Yeah.
you lost to the Eagles already. The Commanders are playing far better than anyone expected, and so it's going to get tight if you don't win the division. And I don't feel great with watching the way they've played some of those division teams.
Yeah. And this was the toughest. These 4 games were the toughest stretch from the Saints, the way that the NFL has played out with the Chiefs, Eagles, Falcons, and Bucks. I think those are 4 playoff teams, most likely. Maybe the Falcons don't get in. Maybe they do. We'll see if Kirk Cousins keeps slinging the ball all over the place. But this, like we said, the schedule does lighten up a little bit, so there is a chance to kind of bounce back. But like you said, and like I said, my pessimism is at an all-time high. I'm just ready to give up. I'm just ready. I'm ready to quit. I'm ready to quit on this team. I won't, but I'm ready to. All right. So after we get done, let's get that pessimism out the window because the best part of my week is right now. It's the high school top plays. Jarrett, what do we have? Show me, get me back on a better spot. Let's finish the episode with a bang and maybe, some razzle dazzle. Who do we have this week?
This is a little bit of razzle dazzle for sure. And there are a couple of these that I think you're going to really enjoy and have some fun with for various reasons, including we'll start up in Shreveport, Calvary Baptist, senior linebacker Cole Miller. One-handed snag of the interception there. We'll turn down the volume. We can play it again. This is a young man who goes by many names. Hopefully we can actually reset this and it goes back. We call him Iguana Eyes because of his peripheral vision. He had a point where he bleached his hair this offseason. We were calling him Finger Guns Kelly because he wasn't quite machine gun quality, but still had a little bit of that look. But you see Calvary Baptist getting some pressure there up front. Homer lofts the ball. And
oh, my goodness. What a catch.
Nice snag
Rumble,
by
young
Iggy.
Man, rumble.
Iggy right there, the senior linebacker, Cole Miller. I think he's got a chance to win this. I imagine the Calvary Baptist folks are going to be pretty supportive of this play. And if he does, the fact that I shared his nicknames is going to just be the tip of the iceberg of the insanity I bring for Cole's highlight later in the week if he's the winner. But
love it.
Go from Cole to closer here. I mean, right up the road from me, Southern Lab with a play over there at Mumford Stadium on Friday night. And this is a young quarterback, junior this year, Jerry Botley, the fourth, slinging deep, looking for Marcus Williams, has him spinning around.
Oh, my
goodness.
Somehow,
though, Denham Hunt ends up with the takeaway, two guys there. And so the little spinning move in the air by Marquez and hand it off to Denham.
Oh, my goodness. This is what I'm talking about. This is what we need. This gives me hope.
To complete that play. That's a video from our friend Michael Cauble over there at WBRZ. A nice play there in the Baton Rouge area.
Michael,
Southern Lab,
thank you.
Southern Lab doesn't end up getting the win against rival Madison Prep, but always an entertaining game, and that was certainly a memorable play from the Kittens. Heading to a game that I was at on Friday. So this video is from me out at Covington at Mandeville, and a lot of attention on Nate Shepard, one of Mandeville's senior running backs who's just past the midway mark, has, I think, 29 touchdowns and an insane yardage total, a Duke commit, which, we're North Carolina guys from a fan standpoint, but Nate has been phenomenal. His senior running mate, I thought, put on a show when given the opportunity in some spots. Isaiah Bayham, who led the third drive for the Skippers, including this punctuation there at the end of the drive, where you see him make about the entire Covington defense miss before it's all said and done.
That's the razzle-dazzle we need.
Zay gets,
oh, my goodness.
Gets the first guy to slip off of that shoulder pad, makes a few other guys move, reverses it, and then finds himself a lane to the end zone. Big Skippers win 35-33. Those two teams were both undefeated going in. The Skippers are the only one of the teams in the district now undefeated coming out of it.
I've heard that the word elusive in the dictionary, they just have that video like right next to it.
The video that you just saw for the first time 5 seconds ago, you've heard that about?
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah, that's been the talk of the town.
Mandeville or Chicago?
Everywhere in between. We've got word from St. Louis just a while ago about all this information that I'm giving you.
It's actually a consistent dialogue point in the movie The Town. Is
yeah. When Ben Affleck's talking, he's like, we're going to go somewhere. We're going to hurt some people. And then Renner's like, whose car are we taking? They were taking a car to come tell me about that play and how elusive he was.
And then number 4, last but absolutely not least, and we'll get to some of the details of exactly why. But this is Peyton Houston, we call him Pop, Evangel Christian quarterback. He's just a sophomore, got a bunch of offers, including LSU. Stiff arms a guy on the pass rush, rolls out to his right, looking downfield the whole way, kind of directing traffic to some of his very talented receivers. This is right before halftime. Slings it off a 1 foot deep, and you watch it sailing.
Pretty ball. Oh,
Ends up off one receiver, and Johnny Casey Jr.
love
there in the
it.
back of the end zone for the diving catch, a big catch for Evangel Christian in the end zone. I think Johnny ends up with 3 touchdown catches, because here's the kicker to all this, Daniel. It ends up being a Captain Shreve win by the end of this in overtime, 77-76, I believe. Peyton threw for 817 yards.
What?
And 8 yeah. And 8 touchdowns, rushed for 2 other touchdowns. So he is now according to the NFHS record books, he is the all-time leading passer in a single game on a national level. Also high up there in terms of passing touchdowns, total yards, those things. But Pop gave that thing everything that he had, and had those guys in overtime, but ultimately Jamarcia Plater, Brody Savage, and the guys over at Captain Shreve, a couple of school records for those guys on the ground and through the air to come out on top with a 1-point lead in an absolute barn burner, insane overtime game. But yeah, man, to recap, 817 yards that dude threw for in his 6th ever varsity start.
Oh my goodness. I like can't even imagine. Could you imagine waking up the next day after you just threw for 800 yards? Like, what was your day like? Like,
look, I had some really good days as a teenager,
I can see,
because I had thrown for maybe close to 800 yards on NCAA the video game, and I was feeling myself pretty good after that.
Yeah.
So to do it in real life as a sophomore in high school in his 6th start, pretty impressive for Pop, to say the least.
If he's not on any radars of some recruiting boards, I sure as heck think he is now. All right. Go ahead.
That video, shout out to Joel Rogers from 318 Sports. He took that
Joel,
video on. That was actually Thursday night. I like how you're doing the Ringer draft show. Shout out to the folks. But yeah, Pop has picked up a ton of offers. Texas, Oklahoma, LSU. A lot of folks are very involved with him, and so he'll be just fine in a couple years when he has to make that decision.
Absolutely. And hey, we want to hear your decision for the best play of the week. You can go to PODnas_LA. That's our Instagram. I'm going to post these videos up there. We're going to have a little poll. We want to hear from you. You are going to pick the winner of the play of the week. We will announce it on our show later this week. Follow us, PODnas_LA. That video should be up a little later today, right after we get our full Podnas video posted.
Yeah. Let's get the whole friggin' video up this week, Daniel. The whole ep.
Listen, it's not my. We'll get onto this off air. Okay, we're already running late, and I don't want Apple, my MacBook, to cut off another 10 minutes of our episode. Okay, so it's not going to happen again. I make a guarantee, and not a Charles Barkley guarantee. Actual guarantee, one that will actually happen. But that is all that we have for you today. Jared, do you have anything else before I do our little sign off?
No, I just want to praise you for your job gritting through this. Like we talk about some.
I think I did okay.
Gritting out wins.
I think I did okay.
You started. It was some ups and downs, but you finished strong. You had the great segue late about decision. We want your decision now.
Yeah. I
Props.
know. Listen, I almost had to stop myself because I was like, wow, this is such a good segue. This is such a good segue. I want to drive it around,
Oh my God. Close it.
Please follow, like, share, comment on this video. We want to hear from you, what we got wrong, what we got right. You can go to Louisiana versus All Y'all YouTube channel to find out everything you need to know about Louisiana sports and recruiting. That's what this man does best. I got the point wrong. Man, we got to close this out. We got to get going. Follow, like, share, like you said, PODnas_LA is the Instagram. LA versus All Y'all is Twitter and Instagram for Louisiana versus All Y'all. That is all we have for today. We appreciate you sticking around. Podnas. Out.
And it's a ticket talking margin for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I've been comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it, get it, get it, get it.